back with another one, another heater. I got my brother Joshua Jacko. For all you creatives that are out there that need a strategy, that need a plan, tune into this one and replay it like 10 times because Josh is about to break it down to why creatives need strategies. But first and foremost, thank you, brother, for coming on and tapping in and giving your insight on what's out there and why creatives need a strategy. Welcome to the show, brother.
Hey, pleasure to be here, bro. Thanks for having me.
Okay, so let's start here, man. Like the question, why do creatives need a strategy? Why can't, I create this awesome graphic and put it on Instagram and expect to get a thousand views or a thousand people DMing me to buy my piece of art?
Well, it goes back to there's a couple of different ways I can answer that question, but just to make it simple, the reason why strategy is needed for creatives is because just because you are an artist doesn't mean that you have the audience that wants to be able to see your stuff right away, right? They might not even know that you exist. A lot of times it's almost like going to an art gallery. How many we know about Monet, we know about Picasso, we know about all these amazing painters, who essentially became famous, when they passed away. We also don't get to take the time to actually see all the other amazing painters or the other amazing creatives and artists that, since the beginning of time, have been able to illustrate and articulate, through visuals, and through paint and color, things like that. The emotional aspect of that transformation that takes place on a canvas or on whatever it is that their art is being created on. So being able to have that strategy, it allows you to kill two birds with one stone. You're able to still create, you're still able to do what you do, you're able to document that process, and you're also able to bring people and have people back the message, right? And the vision and the purpose behind what it is that you do and why you do it so effectively. That gift, it makes room for you. So strategy just allows that room to be seen in the best way possible by you being able to move in the best way that works, is in alignment with you, without you having to try to copy Joe Schmo or Cindy Lou on the side. You just stay true to your lane and which is where creativity truly flows, right? The most times the time you feel like you're the best artist in the world is when you're able to just be so powerfully you. You're not worried about everybody else on the side. You're not worried about what they're creating over there. You're focused only on your lane because what's inside of you is what's going to come out and resonate with the right people. And so being able to create a strategy around that is going to not only help you stay in your lane, creatively, forgive me. It's also going to be able to set you up with the right people and the right community surrounding the overall aspect of your vision and your purpose with that.
So how can we get clarity? Say I'm a graphic designer in San Fran or San Fran. How do I get started? I have a gift. I know that, but I want this to be some type of, I want to be able to make, 500K a year, and I want to be able to, live life on my terms. If, you have a client, how would you take them through the process and where do they need to start?
First, we'll get super clear on our goals. Why are those your goals and why do they matter for the world? It's not solely about you. It's about the people that you're serving, right? So being able to, as you want to build a community, as you want to build, and that's the way I'm able to understand whether you are truly in alignment with yourself, truly in alignment with your gift, or if you're just alignment with what the gift can create for you. It's almost like, coming from a sports background, how many athletes have I met that love the perks that come with football, or whatever other sport, but they didn't really love the process and the journey. They didn't love like the people that they were building relationships with, the camaraderie of the brotherhood. They didn't care about mastering their craft on a daily basis. And that within itself, it speaks to the principle of, make sure that your charisma will take you where your character will be able to keep you. So as it comes to being a creative, if you want to get started in San Fran, you want to make 500K, what does that 500K mean for you? Do you want to make it passively or do you want to make it actively? Meaning, I know tons of people that make tons of money at the same time or whatever. I leave that subjective because that's based off what your interpretation of a lot of money is. However, one thing I have seen that's consistent is you can make 500 grand off of your art. Are you hustling and bustling every day to do it? And is that what's in alignment with you? Because at some point, we all creatives know there's a thing called burnout that happens really fast as you start getting in more demand, right? So would you rather make that passively, meaning that you have it on some type of some type of an online shop or even your own online shop to where everything can be automated at that point, and from there you pick and choose the projects that you want to take on as like custom pieces in a way, or maybe and of course, like I said, tailor that to whatever your specific style of being a creative actually is, and whether you're in design, whether you're just an artist, whether you're on my end, when it comes to video production, that's a little bit more subjective. However, the main thing stays the same. Take you through the process of understanding and getting super clear on your goals and your why behind those goals, and then from there we're crafting your one message for the world. What if you were to die tomorrow? And it sounds kind of dark, but it's really not. At the end of the day, it just snaps people back into the right frame of mind of what really matters most, right? So if you were to die tomorrow, what is that one message through your gift that you want to leave with the world or leave with your kids that they can carry on, to your friends and the people that are closest to you that they can carry on, right? After we get crystal clear on that, how do we take that nucleus of that one message and create 1,000 different ways of saying that one message in as many ways as possible, so a blind person can understand your message, so a deaf person can understand your message, a person that has no impairments at all, they can understand your message just as crystal clear, right? Being able to tap into all five physical senses, and being able to use that as our way of connecting with the world around us, because you already know that as you get dialed in with that, it's going to lead us to our target persona. Who are we going after? And who is that specific person that we want to connect with the most? Most of the time, people don't realize that person is connected internally. So a lot of those characteristics that you see in that target persona is actually going to be somewhat of your journey or your journey of transformation up to that point, right? And then from there, where you want to go. So it makes it an effortless way of you being able to continue creating while you're also creating. What do I mean by that? Creating, meaning you're creating the avenue, you're creating the platform, you're creating you're paving the way for the right people, the right community to gravitate towards you. In marketing, we call it the core 1,000, right? As long as you have a core 1,000 audience, that 1,000 people that are so loyal and so true to the soil with you because they back you, they back your vision. They're not just backing the product or service that you're providing. They're not just backing the gifting. They're backing you, your personality, the journey that comes with it, the good, the bad, and the ugly. And as they back that, that as long as you have those people, at least 1,000 people that are tried and true, you will never go broke a day in your life. Most of the time, creators or creatives want to be so viral that they forget you can be viral within your own frame, right? It doesn't mean you have to have and that's where it goes back to the goals and the whys behind those goals. A lot of times we find out that those whys lead to vanity metrics. We want to be known all over because why? We weren't known as a kid, right? Or we felt that we were being watered down as a kid, or we were told that we were too much, myself included. That's why I stay in this lane that I'm in, and I have empathy towards the people that I work with because I understand I'm serving you, and it's almost like inner child work at the same time, because you're tapping into parts of yourself that your ego's gotten so acquainted with, to where you forget what's really your goals, what really is perspective, what matters for you, versus what you thought mattered that ultimately doesn't, and that's not even necessarily in alignment, because once you get to that point, you realize that that's not where you want to go, and that's not where that's not really what lights you up and makes you feel fulfilled, because you can make a lot of money. That doesn't mean that fulfillment's coming with it, right? So how do we create a brand? How do we create a community that's surrounded by your gifts and your passions and are fully in alignment with the purpose-driven mission that you have with where you're at right now? Doesn't mean it can't change over time, but the best part about that core 1,000 is what? They will follow you throughout that journey because they believe in you. They don't just believe in what you're creating for the world. They believe the person that's creating it, that there's a lot more in there that we want to be on that journey, to see that sense of transformation, that sense of elevation. Because what is it doing? It's empowering them to do the same in their own life.
Right. So let's talk, man. You unpacked a lot right there. So the creative, right? If you guys are watching on YouTube, make sure you guys like, comment below. If you guys have questions for Josh, leave them below. But let's talk about the artistry, right? Like creatives can be very like out there and inspired by so many things, but there's a business part of that. Say that same person, that same avatar that wants to make 500K in San Fran, they could be very artistically inclined, but man, as far as the business savvy, how, what are the infrastructure that they need to like streamline that process to reach that goal? Like, what is your suggestion for that avatar?
Great question. As a creator by nature and having gone to school for business, one of the things that's helped me is, and mentors galore have definitely been a foundation and pillars for my life. One of those big key factors with that is like just the key nugget of wisdom of never lead with creative. You always lead with business. Business is what creates the creative. Creative will never create the business, right? So as long as you understand that, meaning I need the demand that matches the supply that I know I can fulfill on before I can ever get things going. If not, I'm gonna stay in that proverbial. It's almost like this. What's the right word? It's one of those like unforbidden secrets, or I don't know if that's the right word to use, but it's one of those things that creatives have typically for the longest time have been known for, right? Which has been being a starving artist. No, we don't have time to be no more starving artists, man. Like this is it. No. Times have changed. Things are moving too fast. We don't have time for that. Because basically it comes down to a mindset. You think that just because you're creative and you're living in this flow of abundance, which is great, we're all supposed to be there. However, the best creators are the ones that understand that business is what drives the creative, because as long as I have the business coming in, what does it do? It keeps cash flow coming. As long as cash flow is able to come, what does it do? It keeps me in a space of abundance. I'm not having to focus on, oh my God, where's the bill going to come from? How am I going to pay for this? How am I going to do that? Which then does what? If I was to flip the role, what does that do to me? It instantly puts me in the mindset of I have to lower myself and lower my value so that the value exchange is already off and it's already incongruent, which then as a creative, what does it automatically make me do? It makes me have to feel I'm out of integrity or I'm resentful in some way, shape, or form. And you can't create and be resentful at the same time. Just like you can't pray and hate someone at the same time, right? Two of those things can't exist in that same exact present moment. So being able to lead from the standpoint of business is 100% necessary. That means get your structure in order, get your foundations in place, understand sales as first. That was one of the hardest things for me to swallow, was realizing, hey, I want to do all these things. I want to focus on sales, marketing, operations, back end fulfillment, mergers and acquisitions, like want to do all the things. Doesn't mean you can't do all the things. Just make sure you do the one thing that matters first, and that's going to be sales and marketing, right? But even before marketing, it's sales. It's getting out there, building better relationships, letting people know what it is that you do, and being able to be consistent with that measure of continuing to move the needle forward. If you can't get that basic part down, you're just going to have what we call an expensive hobby rather than a business. And by that time, you're better off just finding a job and just settling for, the at least the three times less amount. I should say this: the three times. I'll say it this way: when you're working at a job, it's statistically proven that they're going to pay you at least three times less than what that true value is actually deserving of in the marketplace, right? So if that's what you're willing to settle for because of the comfort or the stability, that's not a problem. Because especially in the creative space right now, depending on which part it is, especially when you're integrating tech and stuff, like there's amazing opportunities there. Everything is about polarity. Everything's about understanding pros and cons. What are you giving up versus what are you getting? Is the opportunity cost, are things weighing out in the way that you want them to go or not? It's just being able to really get down to the basics of, okay, what drives business? Like, of course, when it comes to supply and being able to actually, create a quality product or service for your audience. However, the thing that keeps business moving is cash flow. If I can't consistently create the cash flow I need to make some adjustments, right? And that within itself will shift the mindset away from, okay, as a creative, I have to lead with business, because if I don't do that, I'm doing myself and acquaintedly, I'm actually doing my audience or the customer that I'm serving, I'm doing them a disservice, because if I'm not showing up as my best self, if I'm not in the best if I'm not embodying the best parts of me that creative and element of me needs at that moment, I'm hurting them. So as time goes on, while I'm creating for you, yeah, I'm mostly meeting the deadline so I can hurry up and get paid, rather than me doing this for the love and the fulfillment of making sure that this piece that I'm creating with you, it has a sense of emotional residue that I'm leaving with you. Right? It's almost say energy transfer, almost like a legacy transfer in a way. I'm transferring that energy. It's just like mama's home cooking. You know when she's cooking, when she's throwing down, that it's met with love, versus when it's like, okay, she's kind of mad today. Same thing, same exact thing. So we want to make sure that we're our home cooking, or what people will see as our home cooking, that they automatically know, oh man, this was made with love. I can just feel it, right? Rather than it just being a duty or an obligation because I have to fulfill this assignment or this deliverables on time. That way, it doesn't mess up the rest of the business that's coming afterwards.
Right. I love what you said, man, about I really resonated with that home cooking, because you could tell, right? Proof is it's
Oh
in the
yeah.
pudding. It's in the ingredients, how long it was baked or fried or air fried, or what have you. But let's transition into like the professional space, right? Because I feel like, if we go back, my generation was like, hey, go to school, get a degree, get the house, get the family, you know what I'm saying? Get the kids. But now it's like, you have two incomes, right? Like it's just a different world that we live in, and having, the virtual world, hybrid world, and we have a lot of artistic people, especially in, the creative space, that want all of those things, right? They have a literally a hybrid life, but it's like, hey, I know the stability, I like my salary. I like that, stability. However, I do have this passion project that's, because of AI and technology, I can really make a thing out of this. So what would you give those people in that specific scenario, the advice or the empowerment to how to transition into like that passion project is actually, taking the place of my salary, and I'm not scared anymore. I want to make that jump. What would you, what steps would you give them to make that leap?
Great question. In today's day and age, it's not uncommon for people to be doing two things, right? There's nothing wrong with it's. In other words, it's not frowned upon like it once was, where, oh, if you're focusing on a side hustle, you're taking away from the main thing. No, we can have the main portion or the main entree, and we can go ahead and eat dessert too. There's nothing wrong with it, right? Um, so two things I'd focus on from that standpoint. I would focus on, one, what do you like your focus management, like what are you focusing on? um Actually, I say three things. Focus, what are you focusing on, how are you focusing on them, how can you be as dialed in as possible, when you are focusing on your passion project. I mean, it essentially goes, your focus is going to go back to your why. What are you focusing on? Why are you doing this? What is the end goal? Is it just to, like, what is the passion project for? Is it simply to just to make some more money to make ends meet? Is it to be able to supplement that income or replace at some point, your current job? Is it to be able to, like, once you get that framework, you're then going to be able to set rules and parameters for yourself, non-negotiables that, hey, my time is limited, right? Because the second piece is time management. If I know that I have a certain allot of time, whether it's on a daily or weekly basis, I need to make sure that I'm setting up my schedule in the right way that, permits things moving, or at least me moving the needle forward with this passion project without me losing out on the performance that I've been holding up all this time when it comes to my, regular day job. Why? Simply because we want to make sure that we're instilling the security and the safety that we essentially got the job for. Let's be honest. Without it teeter tottering, that opportunity for instability. As long as you know that the main thing is still staying the main thing, it gives, and you have that sense of, I don't say comfortability, but it's kind of like a fine line between like being too comfortable and being comfortable enough to be able to build something on the side. So as long as you're able to have that right delicate balance and understand what that looks like for yourself, it allows you to then use the focus management and the time management to then go into the energy management, which is going to be the most important thing. Because as long as you're able to understand what days you have more time that you can allot to energy wise towards this passion project, it's going to make it sustainable. One of the issues I've had early on in my career is realizing, hey, how do I do all this, especially running a business? Like at the beginning, you're running every part of the process, right? How do I make time for sales and marketing? While at the same time, I have to make time for operations, and I have to make time for fulfillment, and then I have to make time to still be able to go out there and connect with more people and build better relationships. And then I have to make sure that all the admin stuff is taken care of. It's energy management and understanding how to allot certain times or even certain days to do certain things. That's one thing I'm learning from a business coach of mine is, hey, theme out your days, theme out your weeks. So that way, it's almost like sports. You have that, you literally have your schedule already written out for you. So at that point, it's just you following the schedule. It's less thinking, less brain work, less brain power that you get to, dedicate to that, which then means that you have more energy management, more energy consumption that you can apply to something else as that day goes on or that week goes on and progresses. So I say those are the three biggest things. Knowing that you're doing two things, it's focus management, time management, and energy management. You get those down and you set that, whatever your rule is, right? Some people it's, oh, I'll leave my job once, the side thing is making at least enough money that's at least, equivalent of what I'm getting paid. Some people wait till it's, two times just because they don't want to take the chance of, oh, if something falls off, hey, I at least want to make sure that I'm still good. So whatever that looks like for you, I'd say focus on that and just keep that as your goal and keep that why as far as the bigger reason, not just about money, not just about money freedom or time freedom, but like there has to be a bigger sense of life, a bigger sense of purpose as to why you're doing it. That's going to sustain you over time because at some point you're going to get the time freedom. You're going to get the money freedom. But what does it mean? Because you're still going to just be there twiddling your thumbs and you're going to be like, okay, I thought this is what I was doing it for. But no, you were sold a dream and you were sold a fantasy rather than actually being sold like your vision and your purpose. That's like with one of the things I say about being, working with a strategist is you dial things back and you're able to get crystal clear clarity that gives you the confidence that you matter, your gifts and your one message for the world matters. And that's what we lead in with. So even if you're working at a job temporarily, there's tons of entrepreneurs just because it might not, because here's the thing, it's humbling yourself, right? Getting a job or working a job while you're also building your business or building your side hustle, it's almost frowned upon. It's almost like things have completely flipped. So it's almost been like frowned upon. Like, oh my God, you're doing that. Why not just go full send on your passion, right? You got to do things in decency and in order. It depends on how your life is set up, and it depends on how you're able to stomach risk. Not everybody's able to stomach risk the same way. So don't try to be like everybody else, right? As you get more dialed in on who you are and why you do what you do, you're able to get crystal clear on understanding more aspects of your self-awareness. What things can I tap into more? What things do I need to I don't know. I'm not willing to just take the leap with no backup plan like that. Okay, teach their own. That's just you. There's nothing wrong with that, right? And just understand how you flow beautifully in the lane that you are in, and what essentially, uh, makes up your what we call, as you and I have talked before, what I call brand DNA. As you understand your brand DNA, you understand more about yourself. You understand more about the environment around you, and you understand what parts of those you can take from the genotypes, and you can start mixing and matching where necessary. It's literally all you're doing. When it comes down to that self-awareness piece, as long as you're self-aware first, everything else comes second.
Man, dude, it's so much that you just put out there, right? So let's just talk about passion. We've been talking about passion, but it's about purpose. Once you find that purpose, and then you can reverse engineer, and then everything will come together, and then that alignment, that those ebbs and flow, not saying it's not going to be hard, but your identity or your goal will be clear. And once you have that, all right, God, let's put these pieces, let's put this infrastructure, these systems around so I can, answer my calling, my purpose, you know what I'm saying? And yeah, the passion will come from that, I believe. So it's just like in that professional setting, you go into these roles, like, I had the mindset, like whatever role is for me, I'm going to do it to my best of my ability. And I'm going to use those skills that I gained from that to transfer over to my passion or my purpose, right? To serve the higher calling, the higher purpose, right? So what do you got to say for, people like that, that's on the other side of that, right? Like you know, they're, man, corporate America, they got an itch, right? They don't know if they can do it. They have a desire to speak, but they've been in their role for about 10 plus years. They got a senior VP role. They make 150, got good benefits, unlimited PTO, like, but they know they got something. They got the infrastructure, they got the game. They feel confident that they can run a business. What are your suggestions for that person, or those individuals?
So someone that has not taken the leap yet?
Yeah, they're still in corporate America deep. 10 years.
Okay. Well, if they're 10 years corporate America, chances are they're part of the there's a lot to unpack there.
Yeah. Just simplify
Two
for the
things.
audience. Yeah.
Yeah. Two things. So one of them, it goes back to self-awareness. The other one, it goes back to your level of faith, right? We're all dealt the same measure of faith, or at least, speaking from, as a believer in Jesus Christ, the word of God says that we're all dealt the same measure of faith. Same measure, essentially, I see it as like a faith muscle, right? You go to the gym, you're not starting off, just banging off 225 or 315. You're starting off with just the bar. You know what I'm saying? Like, if you can do that. If not, we're just hitting regular push-ups. It's
Right.
having the self-awareness to know where you're at, what, like you said before, what risk management and what risk tolerance you have. If you have a family and you have obligations, you have a wife or a husband and children that are dependent on you, you got to move a little bit differently, right? And it also depends on the counterpart that you have. If your husband or if your significant other, if they are not the type that like take on a lot of risk and they just want to kind of stay between the lines, that's a deeper conversation y'all got to have. Hey, this is where I'm at. If you feel fulfilled at your job, there's nothing wrong with doing that. Just understand how to set up your side hustle in the best way possible, right? The other portion of that is at some point, is the one thing I've learned from you, and many other, leaders, mentors I look up to is, faith without works is dead. It's not simply you just having this idea in your head and thinking about it. You have to actually put feet towards your faith and move towards something. If you believe that itch has been there, I tell people this all the time, just to simplify it. Write what the Bible says, write the vision to make it plain, right? So those that see it may see it, may take it and run with it, right? Let's simplify that process. You have an itch. You're working in corporate America. You're making money. You're providing for your household. Everything is safe. It's secure. Great. Life doesn't stop there. There's another level that you're going to continue going to and going through, right? In order for you to do what? Continue growing, continue elevating, continue living in the purpose-driven life that God has created us all to live. He didn't create us to just live that for ourselves. He didn't create you just to make 150,000, provide for your family, and just ride your life out. No, make 150,000, and then you're going from level to level. You're going from faith to faith, grace to grace, right? So as we're doing that, we're then able to understand how to build that faith muscle because we're putting that effort in the gym. We're putting our feet towards our faith and moving, even if it doesn't necessarily look on the surface like we want it to look. We at least have to trust what's inside of us because it's there for a reason, right? It's like when you go to those times you walk down the street and you see you have a two-way street and you're like, something's telling me to go. I want to go right, but something's telling me to go left. Or so I'm gonna just, whatever. I'm gonna just follow my gut and go left. I believe that that's the intuitive nature within all of us, right? We might not see it as such, but that's just my personal opinion. Because if that was inside of you, there was some aspect of knowing more than what your rational mind can ever think. That is at least trying to orchestrate, trying to guide your path, right? In some way, shape, or form, especially if there's potential hazard or potential danger on the other side, or a sense of complacency or plateauing. It's just like playing football. I had 6 surgeries. The worst part of the process isn't the surgery. It's the immediate, it's like the first couple weeks, first couple months after recovery. Why? Because your leg or whatever you just had surgery on, there's a term called it atrophies, meaning all that hard work that you put into building your body up, you see that muscle just completely shrink, and you're like, what? Just I feel like I'm a newborn baby. Like this is like my leg or my arm, whatever. Like it's that. that thing looks so different than the other one. Why? Because you didn't grow that muscle, right? Something happened that caused disruption from you being able to work what was already put inside of you that you've been building up. The same thing happens when it comes to you being in a cushy job in corporate America, which is fine. There's nothing wrong with that. But if you feel like you've had this inclination for a while, like this bug that just keeps itching, at some point that bug is going to continue itching whether you actually act on it or not. So you might as well at least act on it so you can satisfy that itch. The worst thing in the world is to sit here and have an itch, even a physical itch, and you don't actually scratch it. You don't actually take care of it, right? That's the worst because you're sitting there just like, that's the worst feeling. So you know it's going to be there either way. You might as well go ahead and at least nip it in the bud now and take care of it, knowing that you're at least moving towards what is actually, chances are, even if it's, I'll say this. One thing I heard from, I think it was a sermon that like TD Jakes was talking, or an interview or something. He was talking about one of his sons who was getting in the music industry. His son was like, right before he was about to step out, his son was like, man, like Dad, I'm scared right now. Like, I don't, it's, in other words, everything has been so comfortable. It's been so secure up to this point. Like, what do I do? His dad told him, son, if you trust the God that's inside of you, realize that he knows more than you know. That itch that you have, that desire to even get to this point where we went through all this process. Now the next thing you have to do is the hardest step, which is to take that next step. That's the hardest step for all of us, is just taking that next step off the cliff, right? Off the ledge. He said, when you do that, you're honoring God in that. And from there, if it's not the thing, it's the thing that's going to lead you to the thing. So that's what I would leave them with and impart into them is trust that itch. Use your self-awareness, have the right conversations that you need to have depending on your, how your family's set up. And from there, if just be obedient to whatever that itch is. It's there for a reason. It's not going away, right? It's only going to enhance over time. And the problem is this, I've been around enough people, whether it's sports, whether it's business, just life in general. How many older people that do you know, or how many elderly people do you know that go to the end of their life and wish, man, I wish I would have lived more. Man, I wish I would have just taken this risk more. I've heard that too many times, right? To people that are just close to me. And that's is so bone chilling, scary to me that those are the things that keep me in the race, even when times go hard. It's entrepreneurship for a reason, right? It's not for everybody, but it's also not for the faint of heart, and it will test your faith every day, right? It's how you're showing up, how you're choosing to show up, and how you're choosing to honor your process in showing up. Don't just show willy nilly thinking that everything's just going to happen. It doesn't always. Some people it might happen it might actually happen like that, but for the majority, it doesn't necessarily. There's effort. There's time under tension. Just like if you were training and you're building a muscle, there's effort that's involved that we don't typically think about beforehand because we live in a day and age where social media over romanticizes entrepreneurship. Entrepreneurship is a beautiful thing. If I were to do it again, I would have definitely done the corporate job while building the side hustle and then building it from there and then being able to shift where necessary. So I say that people that are in that space are actually in the best position possible because why? You get the best of both worlds. If possible, and if you're crafting the same skills from your job or in your job that you are applying to your side hustle, you're able to learn how to fail on the job. Don't do that when it comes to entrepreneurship, bro. It's a different beast. If you can avoid it at all costs. If someone's going to pay you to fail and to learn from those failures and to cultivate and reiterate your process and refine it and master it before you truly launch off, doesn't mean that you don't get to still do the side hustle stuff. It just means while you're building the side hustle, before you fully take off on that jetpack, hey man, master that process. Go through the process of refinement because guess what? It's going to happen either way. Which one do you want to say? What position do you want to be in when you finally decide to master it?
Listen, I say it all the time, and I've shared it with you and some other people on my network that, you're at a job, they're paying you to learn. You're literally in school. So if you went to college, got your degree, man, you're getting your graduates or your doctorate degree in whatever role you're in, right? So to also comment on, the significant others, right? Having that understanding, because two creatives can be together, but you have to have,
Sure.
structure, right? Like for me, I have a wife. She's a logical thinker. She's like, which helps the balance, right? I can dream, I can do this. And she gives, we have an agreement like, hey, I'm gonna do this. You already know my heart. This is my purpose. This is the plan, and we're working it. And things are just moving forward in the various projects that we have together and separate. So, but I think that's very, very important. Just have that, to your point. Have that framework. Like, know what you're getting into. That's why it says, like, man, know your, like, any relationship. It's a partnership. It's a business partnership. Like, hey, what do you bring to the table? Hey, like, make it clear. Like, and have those milestones, right? Like, and I think a lot of times, I know we're going in various different directions, but just to bring it back to, the pod and what we're talking about, like, it's all synced. It's all, if you have that alignment, you're trying to create something, reverse engineer it. To your point, work that corporate job, like, work it, learn everything you can. They're paying you, to your point, X amount of dollars, but that position is actually more, 2 to 3 times or more than what they're paying you. So you can duplicate that for yourself.
Yep.
I've always had that itch, like, whatever role that I was in, I could have been working at Jack in the Box. I'm like, God, just, I'm here on this fryer. And I'm gonna
Yep.
stay on this fryer, but I know what's itching inside of me. This ain't it. This ain't what you called me to do, my guy. So, like, let me figure it out. So I've always had that, right? And we shared, conversations like, yo, I'm bigger than the moment, but let me do the work. Let me focus. Let me get with the right people. And the 5 people you communicate with the most, I'll even say that in some, instances, like, 10, like, whatever that number is for you, that's what you become. So it's like, if creatives, if you guys are hanging out with Debbie Downers, low energy, pessimistic, mindsets, man, that's not growth. I'm allergic to that. So to land a plane, what would you say for, the creatives that, to that point, how can you speak to, creating a more abundance, creative flow?
I would say, just like you said, surrounding yourself around the right people. I think one thing that you said beautifully is how you and wifey balance each other out. It's so necessary when it comes to a significant other. It is a business. Is it a spiritual partnership? Yes, it is. It's also a business partnership at the same time. You guys spend the most amount of time with each other that no one else gets access to your dirty laundry, your dirty secrets, everything else, right? So if you find somebody that loves you in spite of all that stuff and they still are in alignment with your plan and God's plan and purpose, and they can identify with that, the best part is this: iron sharpens iron. So as long as you're able to edify them, they're able to edify you. You build something, and you know that you have not only the support system, but you also know that you have an anchor that's always going to make sure that you are structured and you are taken care of. I'm just like you. I'm a mix of both. I'm logical and analytical as heck, and at the same time, I'm also a visionary. Like, my head can go. I'm up in outer space at this point, and it's how do you find that right blend? And it's having the right type of people like yourself around me that humble me into those moments of not like, oh, you can't do this, you can't do that. More so like, that's great, bro. Like, have you thought about it from this perspective, or what does it look like from that perspective, or who can you tap into that can do this or that can do that, or can give more insight towards something, right? So when it comes down to being able to stay in that flow of abundance, one of the biggest cheat codes, I learned this back when I was up at USC. I realized, and it's such a cheat code, man, for people that are doing two things. Like, if you're doing a corporate job while you're building your side hustle, you're learning the skills, you're applying the skills on both sides, cross functionally. Leverage the name of the job that you're at to build better relationships. Why? Hey, my name is Josh. I work for such and such corporation. I just want to let you know that I do videos for them, or I do video marketing for them. Da 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 da. We're doing all these full campaigns. I'm understanding digital marketing. I'm applying these different tools and skill sets. I would love to have a conversation about how, from just what I see from your online presence, I'd love to have a conversation of some ideas that I have that can really benefit you guys and what you're doing over there. What did you just do? You killed 2 birds with one stone. You let them know that you're already working with your current employer, so there's nothing wrong with that, right? They understand the process. True entrepreneurs understand the process of building, right? And on top of that, you're also showing them that I've been able to apply the same type of tools for this bigger pedigreed business that I want to be able to apply over to you. So I'm mastering my process and I'm sharing in that experience with you that will actually benefit your situation from where you're at right now. That stage keeps you in a state of abundance because you're killing two birds with one stone. You're not feeling like the worst thing in the world, man, is sitting here coming. I was just talking to a good friend yesterday. He was also, in the video production and agency space where it's like, man, he just stepped out about a year ago into full-time entrepreneurship. And he's like, it's kind of lonely out here. I'm like, it can be lonely, very much can be, especially when you have those moments or those seasons where, projects, the number of projects might, tail off a little bit, you don't get as much coming in as you thought you were going to get. But at that point, it's about you just shifting your mindset. Everything business is a personal development journey. Right. So when it comes to staying in that state of abundance, it's really training and retraining and reprogramming your mind on a daily basis to not only renew your mind to, in my opinion, the things of God, also being able to renew your mind into as far as like the characteristics, the belief systems, the thought process. A lot of times we have subconscious thoughts that just loop in the back of our mind without us even knowing it. Right. So how do you stay in that state of abundance? That's by you being proactive in surrounding yourself around the right people, making sure that you're staying in alignment with yourself and that you're also pouring into other people. A lot of times we want to take, but we don't actually pour in. That's why when you can give something to somebody when they're not expecting it, it lights you up. You're like, oh, let's go. Provide the best of both worlds, whatever that balance looks like for you. Step into that. And lastly, it's just leveraging where you're at right now, not being ashamed of that. Leverage it for what it's worth because that is going to open up doors more than you realize. Back when I was at in a quick story, and I'll end it with that, is back when I was up at USC, was transferring in to play football, finished out that last year before, pursuing the NFL, doing all that. Some stuff happened with NCAA, so I wasn't able to make that happen. What at that time I thought was the worst thing possible because I've always been programmed that I'm an athlete. I'm only an athlete. That's all my value is. That was the biggest blessing because I never would have got into, filmmaking and video production and all that if it wasn't for that situation. Right. And in that process, one thing I learned that helped me get there was I randomly just started reaching out to people, whether it was former athletes that had gone to USC or that were in the NFL or sports agents or, actors and filmmakers in Hollywood, what have you, or just even just business mentors and different, business industries. Once they saw that USC tag with my name, instant hits back. If I would have just said, hey, my name is Josh Jacko, they would have been like, yeah, I don't know who this Negro is, so we're gonna keep him on red. They responded back fast, like, "Hey, man, it's great to see you." Like, I'm talking about, I've gotten in touch with. I'm talking about even Carson Palmer, Jordan Palmer, like just people like that, just because I had the tag that's attached to my name. That's why I tell people that's the biggest cheat code if you're working at a corporate job. Especially, I have a friend that I recently found out works at Xbox. I'm like, leverage that. What are we talking? Leverage that.
That part.
And then you apply it to the other, like,
that part.
What are we talking about? Kill two birds with one stone and you'll find yourself flowing in that state of abundance because of that,
Man, this is so much. I feel like we're going to have a part 2, part 3, part 4. But as we land the plane, where can people find you on social media? I know we got to get going.
No worries. So they can find me on Instagram at _Josh Jacko. Also, my company, Illuminate Media Productions. You can find us at illuminatemedia.co, not .com. We're some stuff we're working on right there, But yeah, those are the two best sources to find us at. We're starting to go on LinkedIn more and starting to market there a lot more because we realize our target audience, as we've been able to get crystal clear, that's predominantly where they are. So that's predominantly where they can find us, or shoot me an email, shoot me an Instagram, a DM. I'll be happy to help and be of assistance however I can.
This brother is great. Be sure to like, subscribe, comment below, and let Josh know what you liked about this episode. Until next time, peace and love.